Lewis Genge, and you're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate podcast.
You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans. We're three friends who love the club, the game, and all things Bears. Well, boys, we are back in the Bristol Beer Factory tap room. We've not actually recorded from here for, well, it feels like a couple of months. It was before Christmas. Because obviously I had my little sojourn down into Asia, and we've done a couple of Zooms since then. We have, boys. So we're back in, and so we're back in the Beer Factory.
Well,
we've got.
Wait a minute. We should celebrate that moment with a un, deux, trois.
Brilliant. To prove. So what? Well, we may as well just say, boys, very quickly what we're drinking. So Miles, what have you got there?
You and I have got a fantasy league.
Ooh.
Which I should say is a session now, because you boys were on it yesterday in Exeter.
Exactly. And Lee, you've got your own...
Well, I've actually got my first can of Espresso Martini Stout, which I've been wanting to drink for a good probably 4 weeks.
Brilliant.
So thank you very much, Lewis, for looking after us as usual.
Yeah, so it's nice to be back. It's nice to be back. Well, boys, we're going to start with a little bit of an apology this week. Apology to a very good friend of the pod, a big supporter of the pod, and an absolute legend is Mr. Joe Joyce. Bristol legend, Mr. Joe Joyce. Obviously, right at the end of the pod last week, we kind of alluded to the fact that Joycey had said that he wouldn't go to Gloucester if he had went anywhere else. And of course, that was actually wrong. Joycey did his own fact-checking for us, got in touch and actually had clipped out the bit in the interview we did last year before, where he said that he wouldn't go to Bath, but he would go to Gloucester. So it is a massive apology to Joycey, bit of a stupid throwaway comment. He is a genuine pro, and he's had 3 shoulder ops and all this sort of stuff. So I think it was important to set the record straight. And I did get in touch with him and apologise. And he was like, he said, "Oh no worries, mate. It's these things happen." So really appreciate.
I mean, we should say, actually, we should quantify it by saying the reason that I asked the question is because I was thinking generally we were more hurt by the fact that he'd gone to Gloucester, but I should also say that I posted something out on Twitter when it happened, when we first had the announcement, and I was asked by one of our listeners, like, how do we feel about it? And I said, well, look, it might be a 2-year contract. You know, it's a short career. Joycey might have a 2-year contract, but he'll always be a Bristol legend. So, you know, that was it for me. That was everything summed up in one little neat ball. Like, I'm not disappointed that Joycey's gone to Gloucester because personally, I mean, Gloucester and Bristol hate Bath with the same amount of intensity. So there was no issue with that. No. But it was at the end of the last pod, it was a bit of a throwaway because we were counting down on Zoom, weren't we, the last few minutes? My question was literally asking how upset were we? Because let's face it, we all want to see Joycey in blue and white. Yeah. I hope that settles things.
All right, well, we're talking of putting our foot in it. Miles and me actually went down to Sandy Park yesterday and sort of tried to avoid various puddles and filthy mud baths or mud patches. I mean, it was a horrendous day from a weather point of view, but we did witness a famous, albeit slightly weird, game of rugby. And for those of you that are on another planet, I mean, I'm sure there's nobody that listens into us to find out the result, do they? But if they are, maybe. I don't know. But if they are, we won 8-3, and I cannot remember. I can't even remember a Premiership game that
that would have been way back, 90s.
I mean, what comes to talk about. I mean, there was a danger at one point that there would have been no tries. Yeah. It was an infamous victory, and in fact, the first win any club has achieved at Sandy Park in any competition this season.
Yeah. I mean, there was an even point in that first half. I did think, could it be 0-0? And
I know, mate.
Anyway, so and for those of you that don't know, but I'm sure you do, that we were winning. We were 5-3 up at half time, having had the wind in our backs. But then we managed to shut out Exeter somehow for the whole of the second half, and then nicked a penalty at the end to win 8-3. I mean, we'll obviously discuss this in a little bit. Yeah, it was both a sort of climatic and a physical challenge that the boys faced, especially in that second half. And it was something that we don't sort of think about that often, because obviously the narrative of the Bears way, and we ping the ball around. And I think very, very quickly it was very clear that we had changed our game plan almost completely because of the conditions and because of the state of the pitch, and also a nod to the opposition as well. I mean, a lot of people have said it was like one of the worst games of rugby that they've watched in terms of a spectacle, but actually,
I don't get that.
No, but they're meaning by running rugby. I mean, the reality was it was an incredibly compelling contest, and actually, it was a bit of a shame that someone had to lose that game. And I think it was a very, very, very much a fine margin situation, and it was fantastic that the Bears came out top for reasons that we will discuss. But I think it was cold and miserable for everyone from a sort of feeling point of view, but actually it was a heartwarming experience for a lot of people. And actually, to be fair, me and Miles were down there in the terrace, and you could see the players were absolutely buzzing at the end of the game, just buzzing about the victory, because they knew what they had done and achieved to get there. So really, really good. There was a lot of good banter. We had some great banter with some Chiefs fans. We had some good banter with Bears fans. And actually, I thought what we could do to start with is just play a soundbite that we had from one of the Bears fans that we met. Someone actually Miles knows, Chris Summers. And I thought we'd play his soundbite first of all, because he kind of covers quite a lot of the main points. So let's all have a listen to Chris, and then perhaps we can have a little chat afterwards.
So my name's Chris Summers. I happen to work with Miles, which is lovely every day of the week. Come down to here to rainy Sandy Park. And actually, what's been fantastic today is to see so many Bristol supporters here today, but also to see Bristol play in a style of rugby that has meant we've been able to combat the Chiefs' terrible conditions and still come away with a win.
I mean, right from the start, it looked like it was a pretty simple game plan for both teams. It was kick the ball, try and win territory, and then capitalise for any mistakes. Does that make it a good game of rugby? What did you think of it?
It does make it a good game of rugby. It's made it worthwhile to come down here. Very tense game. I think from a Bristol perspective, we managed to control the conditions, control the territory. For most of the second half, Bristol weren't in Exeter's half at all, but we defended absolutely to the line. And at the same time, we managed to, when we had to, kick, more importantly, that we've never done before this season. So, yeah, good.
So, I mean, that puts us in a pretty good position, into this massive Six Nations break. When we come back in March or whatever, do you think we've got a serious chance of winning the Prem, getting in the playoffs and winning the Prem?
Yeah, I do, for the main reason that I think a few of the Bristol players should have been selected for England, and they haven't been. And I think that actually strengthens our chances for pushing on through the campaign, gelling as a team, and actually getting some results for the rest of the season. Yeah, sure.
Cheers, mate. And we'll come back to you for more stories about Miles later.
Well, there you go, boys. Chris Summers. I thought that was a very nice summary of the game. But so Lee, I mean, when the teams were announced earlier in the week or whenever it was on Thursday, I mean, what were your thoughts about our chances?
Well, it's funny enough because I can't remember if you boys remember at the end of the last pod, Miles was talking about hopefully we'll get dry weather, and I said the forecast for the week was awful.
Yeah.
And so it came to pass. And I mean, when I saw the team sheets for both teams, I don't know, I just kind of, I felt it in my fingers, I felt it in my toes. I don't know, I thought it was going to be a war. That's the way I thought it. Yeah. And it was going to be whoever makes the least mistakes wins the game. But what I didn't imagine was how brilliant it was going to be to watch as a game of rugby. And I was on the TV. I was sat there and drinking my Malbec, you know, in the warm when you boys were out there on the front line, so to speak. But what an absolutely brilliant game of rugby it was.
So just a couple of questions on the selection. So there's a couple, I suppose there was a couple of mildly eyebrow-raising decisions. So Harry starting, Kieran Marmion on the bench again, which was something we kind of discussed. Matthias Moroni came on, started at 13, and Jimmy Williams dropped to the bench.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, obviously the way things panned out, it all worked very well. But what do you think the thinking behind that was at the time?
I have no idea. I haven't, honestly, no idea. I was really surprised at that. Just because, I mean, we know Moroni's a class act.
Yeah.
But there was nothing that I don't think Moroni could have done that Jimmy Williams couldn't have done in those conditions, if that makes sense. It was great to have Stephen Latour back as well, because again, he's the glue, and he's, you know, when things get really tight, he's that kind of player that it just calms things down and gets things going.
Because that was the other one that obviously Santi Grondona dropped to the bench.
Yeah, he did.
But that was, I'd say that was a like for like sort of both attack, you know, line out defence, whatever. Interesting. I mean, my only theory with Jimmy Williams was perhaps Jimmy Williams, you know, worked incredibly hard against Bordeaux and just needed a little bit more recovery time. I mean, he was up against international centres.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, put a big shift in. So that was, but it, you know, it was interesting. But we always have to a little bit of speculation. So anyway, Miles, so I agree with Lee. I think, you know, I knew it was going to be a tough game. I didn't think it was going to be anything but a tight game because they're on form. Only thought was that with Henry Slade, Greg Fisselau being called up to the England, do you give it absolutely everything the game before you're going to go to your first squad? And particularly Craig Fisselau, who's a great player and I like him a lot, but he is known for carrying and physicality, and he's got the potential in England place. Does that come into it, Lee?
Sorry, this was Miles' question, but I will just say, that doesn't happen in professional sport, because it's when you do like even attempt to switch off slightly in your head, that's when you get injury.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so I don't think that, over to Miles.
Yeah, so actually my question to you, Miles, was actually when we actually got there in the pouring rain and the wind, what did you think then about our chances?
I think you're right. I think, you know, I agree. I looked at their team sheet and there was, you know, bar one or two injuries, etc. They went full force, as did Bristol. And I thought, flipping hell, this is going to be an absolutely physical game. However, the conditions were dismal. I think you're right, Lee. It was almost like the Battle of the Somme. I mean, we got trench foot just standing in the stands under the dry. I cannot imagine playing in those conditions. I mean, the wind was horrendous. The rain was just horrific. And I just cannot see, you know, I think once we saw the conditions, I just couldn't see that being a high-scoring game. It was attritional. There were mistakes from both sides. Understandably, it was a greasy surface, wet ball. You were flipping lucky to catch anything. So I think we cannot dispel any, like, you know, errors, etc. That was going to happen all game. I just didn't see it being quite as tight. I mean, we were saying, look, we're going to keep it tight. There'll be a few errors, a few mistakes, but to finish at 8-3, I just would not have predicted.
It's funny because I thought it would be tight. I genuinely thought it was going to be a tight game, like the Bordeaux game was tight. And I thought it would be a bit like the Bordeaux game, that both teams would score of quite a few tries because there'd be a load of mistakes and they would capitalise on the mistakes. So my theory was that it was going to be a high-scoring, close game because there was going to be a lot of broken play and a lot of stuff. But what I didn't factor in was just how bad the weather was, because I think the irony was that when a team did make a mistake, the other team capitalised on it, they still then made a mistake and they couldn't get to the line because it was that sort of game. It was almost impossible to put together any sort of phases, but also to run more than about 5 yards. So in fact, in hindsight, it was only ever going to be a low scoring game.
It was still like running in glue, wasn't it? I mean, they didn't have the Biel Barry who pelted down the line last week.
I would say I don't think Biel Barry would have scored a hat-trick.
I agree.
At Sandy Park yesterday in the same situation as it was at Ashton Gate.
But I could see why you made that assumption because obviously it was only a week before.
Yeah.
We had that. But I think the conditions, as Miles said, they were so awful that it was like there was no thought process of even trying to run the ball. And I think that was the difference between this week and last week.
Well, this is my question to you, actually, is what was your thoughts on the game plan? Because it was very clearly not the Bears' way for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, was it, what did you think about it? What would you think? Essentially, what did you think about the first half? Because we had the win behind us. How did you think about the way we played?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it because we get so much. We've been so stigmatized with this running rugby, kind of team. But this season stereotype. And this season we've time after time again we keep saying we're playing a more pragmatic game, different approach. We've still in a lot of occasions had the running rugby, but then we've had the defence to back it up, and that was the defence that we showed was immense. And do you know what? The one thing was when Joe Batley came out and spoke to us last week after the Bordeaux defeat, and he said, we'll go again against Chiefs, right? And I just looked that guy in the eyes, and the determination was just there. And I don't know if that gave me that confidence before kickoff, but he really is he's one of those guys that you just really... You would go over the trenches with him. Miles has already...
I mean, you've done well, mate. He's like a foot taller than you. To look him in the eye, you were standing on a box.
I'd be on his back over the trenches.
I think, to be fair, poor old Joe was having to lean over, talking to Lee last weekend. And I mean, he had to go and have some physio on his back. And he was only just fit to play because of that. But Miles, I mean, Lee's knocked it on there pretty well there, but what was your thoughts on the first half? How did you, we were there halfway line, we were at a great position, we were watching it live. I mean, how did you feel that first half went?
I mean, it's just quite hard to sort of now look back on it. However, I've watched the highlights again today, the hour-long highlights, and I just cannot believe how compelling watching that is. I mean, I don't know if I would have watched the full 80 minutes, but the attritional rugby, the defence from both sides, to be fair, was absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, we came off the better. But first half, it was odd. We had the wind against us. It was horrendous.
We had the wind with us,
really. And unfortunately, the conditions were terrible. Tom Jordan missed what looked like a... is there any kick that's a sitter? Yeah. A win behind him, fairly straightforward kick. Unfortunately, missed that. It wasn't that interesting a half to sort of watch, to be honest with you. It was just gritted it out, and I was hoping for something a bit more exciting in the second half, but lo and behold, much of the same.
Can I just say, I think it was probably one of those games that was better to watch on TV, because I can imagine what I would have been like watching it with you boys in the stand. It was probably really kind of tense. Watching it at home was I don't know, you got a picture of the whole game and you kind of just felt like, I don't know, it was a more rounded view of it, if that makes sense.
I mean, I know what you say. I mean, the weird thing was, normally when you play in normal conditions and they set up for a box kick and everyone sort of groans a little bit.
Yeah.
On Saturday, everyone was enjoying it because actually everyone realised within about a minute of the start that running the
level
ball
playing field
was going to be impossible.
Yeah.
And actually, so it was almost kind of exciting. It was like a kick. It was basically a game of kick strategy, who's going to win this. And it became a compelling sort of watch to see, is Ravovo going to catch it? Is Woodburn going to get it? And it was almost high entertainment. It was almost like we wanted more and more kicks. So we had a clear strategy and I think it was clear, is that we kick pretty long, but also there were some really good kicks that were just outside the 22. You know, I thought our kicking strategy in the first half was brilliant. I thought Harry Randall kicked really well. I thought Jordan did kick well as well. And it was to pin them back because we knew that we had the win behind. We were only going to score by capitalising on a mistake and close to the line. It had to be close to the line. And actually, as we got towards the end of the first half, I thought, it's going to be disappointing if we don't score. And actually, the guy in the stands, Chiefs guy, said, I reckon whoever scores first in this game will win. And he was right. And then we scored that try at the end, which was kind of from a spiral bomb from Jordan. Ollie Woodburn dropped it. Henry Slade sort of kicked it by mistake, went behind. We had a 5-metre scrum and then scored. That was kind of the end product of a really clear plan, but was quite compelling to watch.
Well, does that not show exactly in that sentence how far we've come?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I actually can't remember a time where we've ever been, we would ever say we would win a kicking game, a kicking contest. We're at Sandy Park, as Miles said, unbeaten, this season, and we won a kicking game. I mean, that is how far we've come this season.
And talking about distance, we kicked 1,145 metres on Saturday to their 824.
Yeah.
And interestingly, for stats fans out there, no, you don't like the stats, Lee, but I'm going to say it anyway. Our 1,146 came from 36 kicks from hand, whereas their 824 came from 33, which my basic maths suggests that they kicked it up in the air more and we kicked it further, and I think mixed it up a little bit more than them. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll ever see those stats again until another hurricane comes through the southwest and there's a derby. But it was compelling, and it almost rendered the game at times to be a bit like schoolboy rugby. And you felt like it was like the players, and I know they're pros, but they were like holding their arm, like their hands inside their shirts, and like the wingers were like doing little dances to keep warm. And it was like the kids at card. Like there was one where, the one before our try where Ollie Woodburn dropped it, it was like you could. He tried to go sideways on because you knew that if you try and catch it. You had a real a knock on. So he did the right thing and then totally missed it. And then Slady did that thing where Slady was coming back to mop up, but he went down to pick the ball up and then he kind of kicked it by mistake. And it reminded me of that classic, for those football fans out there, that classic Gaza thing. Do you remember where the joke where he's pretending to pick up the ball and he kicks it? It was a bit like what Slady looked like. I felt a bit sorry for him. But yeah, it was just.
Well, we should actually. Why don't we mention that with Slady? Because Miles, do you want to pick that up with, because we scored the try, and we should say, Louis Rees-Zammit, it was a brilliant pass out. But prior to that.
Well, there was, as those that saw the game will know that, on the base of that 5-metre scrum, we had a great attacking platform. We went left, and they rushed out. Van Rensburg pops it to Maroney, and from nowhere, there's a kind of diving hand, knocks the ball on, which obviously then goes into Rees-Zammit's hands, who then changes direction, does that again, like a schoolboy, goes all the way round sideways, and then an amazing off the left-hand pass, probably the best pass of the game, probably the best pass of any game of rugby in the Southwest on Saturday, because it was all like that, and we score. But yeah, the question is, and I know it didn't matter in the end, but that looked like very much a deliberate knock-on from
I watched it back on the TV today. It certainly did. And I watched it back again and again. And I think it was just, you're right, I think because we got the score, it was dismissed by the TMO and Dicko, wasn't it? But, there was no way he was getting that and then running the length of the pitch.
Well, the TMO, it was Craig Maxwell Keys, said that he'd made a genuine attempt to intercept
which
the
I
ball.
don't think he did.
And I'm like,
so.
had the guy been watching the game, like, you're not going to intercept anything because you've got no... So he basically was diving and he put his one hand out. I thought the rule was that if you have two hands, you get away with it a bit. But if it's one hand flapping and you're vertically and you're horizontal, that's a deliberate knock on and that's a yellow card at least.
Yes, exactly.
And you know what? And watching it on the TV is probably the clearest way you'll see it.
I think
and
so,
it was so brutally obvious that I was actually looking for Maroney to carry the ball over the line, which would have been pretty much under the sticks. Yeah. So it guaranteed 7 points. And I was like, well, hey, where's the ball?
I mean, my point with this is that I didn't make, and there'll be people out there going, "Oh, don't worry about it." You know, it's
No,
like,
I mean,
the point is that
yeah,
it's
but-
stress as a fan, as a kind of amateur rule person. It confuses me a little bit because there will be other times where it gets given
well,
as a
it'd be
yellow
massive.
card. It might be
Yeah.
us, or it might
It's consistency.
and it's like, what is like? It just seemed. And like, were they taking account the conditions? Which
Right.
is, but then
Slade
if they
should
were
have had
taking
10 minutes off, right? We would have scored already, and we would have had 7 points. As
Yeah,
opposed
that's
to,
true.
And then the game, it's a different game
you
again.
could
so-
argue that if it had, what ifs are dangerous, but if we had capitalised on 10 minutes, they might not have got a losing bonus point, and they're
Absolutely.
only 2 points behind us. That
Yeah.
might be quite important. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on the. I think it was a tough game for the refs as well, and I think to be, there was definitely, I thought, a knock on by us right in front of us that Carl Dixon didn't give, and then he looked over at Sarah Cox, and she was like, I don't know, and they just carried on. So I thought it was I didn't think you did too bad, Dixon. It was
all right.
It was
I mean,
tough.
it flowed well. It was tough conditions.
There was one bit where I think the
you know.
scrum was difficult. It's always difficult reffing the scrum. But there was one where he gave a scrum pen to them in the second half, and he said to Genji had won the contest, and then had kind of driven upwards, and I was thinking he won the contest.
Yeah.
Then it's a penalty to
Yeah.
us, and it's like, and also, mate, there are 16 blokes on a mud bath. It was like, on one hand, they were taking account of the conditions, and on the other hand, that just seemed like a bit petty. And you could see the look on Genji's face when he was almost, he didn't argue, he couldn't believe it. It's like, well, how can you say that somebody has basically won, has beaten their opposition, and then give a penalty the other way?
Yeah.
And then Ogre was saying, but I'm being, pushed upwards. Anyway, it didn't matter. But it's just, and it is really hard to ref it. But it was just a couple of, it was a couple. I think there were times when Carl Dixon was probably, he was struggling to keep his feet and get in the right place as well. So anyway, let's move on from that. So half time, Mars, we're 5-3. And we've scored first. The extra Chiefs guy is looking depressed because he had just told me that the first
that
team
we
to
were
score.
going to win. Absolutely.
Personally, I thought we hadn't got enough points. I thought we needed to have had a few more points in the bag.
I'd agree.
Because I thought they're going to do exactly the same as we did. They're going to dominate.
the wind.
They're going to
Yeah,
try
yeah.
and control territory. They're going to try and make us a mistake or force us to concede a penalty. And it's conceivably could happen because it's so difficult. And I was a little bit like, I thought, I thought we did everything right in the first half. I thought we tried our best. Everything, the tactics were spot on. But
They didn't bank on Calavati
But they
to
did
catch
well.
the ball.
they didn't. Well,
exactly.
What they didn't bank on was that bulldog, that grit that we've talked about, that
that
maybe
defence.
in the past we might have talked about, but fundamentally, anybody now who questions our defence
Well, they
can't do it, can they?
No.
And actually, it was that first 5 minutes of the second half, because we it all came about of another big kick. Brown Bampo chased it, we lost it. He caught it, and then Jimmy Roots, I think, got it. Or Ethan Roots caught it. They got into our 22 on our mistake, and then there was that 5 minute defensive set,
Oh, my goodness.
backwards and forwards, and they just went nowhere.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. You're right. I think there were, up was about 20 phases of, Chiefs picking and going on, going on our line. And you're right. Season's gone. That is a given for Chiefs, isn't it? That's the style they play. There's such a physical up-front team, and they have been all season. So, we could argue that conditions weren't great and there was decent enough traction or forward momentum to get your studs in the ground and push forward. But ultimately, absolutely phenomenal defence. We didn't get pinged, did we? And then it came out turnover by Fitz himself.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. And then back to Ogre, and I couldn't believe it. 20 phases defended on our line, being pummeled, and we came out on top.
But how tense was that? Because I mean, watching it on TV, I was up, I was down, I was up, I was down. Watching that live, like what?
Well, the
hell?
trouble with us, we were on the halfway line on the opposite side, so we couldn't really see anything. It would just look like a massive bundle the whole time. And it was just like backwards. It was more tense because you couldn't really see it. And then we suddenly saw Dixon's hand go up for a penalty, and it was like, and you could see Fitz was like on his knees praying, like sort of bowing to the gods.
Brilliant.
It was super.
Brilliant.
It was
I
super.
mean, you're right. We were there thinking this is probably a given. They're pummeling our line, and we couldn't believe that Dicko gave the penalty. And watching it again today, you just see how the boys put their bodies on the line.
It was more than putting
And of course,
their bodies on the line.
that wasn't obviously that wasn't the game there. But I really felt it was a big turning point in terms of mentality, and I think Exeter lost a little bit of their belief after that, and I think Bristol, believed that they were going to see this game through. I mean, even though we spent virtually I think there was a stat that we only got into their 22 for the first time in the 74th minute.
It was the 74th minute.
Now, I mean, that's extraordinary. I mean, that is smash and grab.
But we've won games on as little as 22% possession before, haven't we? The sneaky Bristol way, the running sort of way. But I think we have only 35% territory.
Yeah.
So you're like, ultimately, we just pulled their pants down and got away with that.
We spanked them.
We did literally pulled their muddy pants down at Sandy Park. There was no flipping sand at Sandy Park yesterday, was there? Literally, and did so well and brilliantly. Phenomenal effort.
They needed sand at Sandy Park. Did you see
right.
the mud on the where all the subs were and stuff like that? They needed Xmas Beach to be put on there just to stop them.
The bit sort of like 4G surface was surrounded by almost like just a mud path, wasn't it?
I mean, let's tie this up. I mean, fundamentally, what we're saying is that was Plan B. Fully exposed Plan B, and we know if we need to. Now, what we all need to do to win trophies is we have to be able to do that within games at the right times and other times when it's not.
Agreed.
Yeah. But I think we're now seeing a sort of steel amongst everyone. I mean, it's not just the backs. It's Ravovo, as you said, was like immense, like physical presence of him caused problems. Heward, is getting, everybody's getting stuck in our centre partnership. I mean, Bernard. I don't know what we call. It's so annoying. I have to say his whole name, isn't it? They call him BV. I mean, BV. He's a physical presence, like that try against Bordeaux last week when he took the half of France with him over the line with his pants being pulled down at the same time. And then he got that jackal at the end on top of Slady, and he was lifting Slady off the floor when all of the support boys were trying to, and he was like, it was like lifting 5 men. And we have this physicality and a belief that I think that they know that we can get momentum. I think this is the thing. It's like this problem we've had in the past is like when we lose momentum, we've worried that we can't get it back. But I think we are the sort of team now that can get that momentum back through pure physicality. Yeah. And I do think that's because of a few extra players have developed, but also players we've got in. So obviously Pedro Rubiolo, I think again,
he's an animal.
He's an animal.
80 minutes,
and he did 27 tackles and he missed one. It's like, I think he had 100% tackle rate, 27. And I was watching him on the highlights because I thought, and what they do, I've realised, the 4-2, they rotate. Yeah. They're rotating the whole time. So they're not losing their heads. They're not getting up and trying to tackle again. It's like Fitzy does a tackle. Yeah. Then he has a little breather and Stevie was in there. And Stevie, and it's almost like they're doing it. And then Bats and Fitz are back in there. And it was just, it was beauty. In fact, it was poetry almost.
I'm eulogising slightly here, but I do feel that we've got all the ingredients to win the title this season.
Big call.
I kind of almost.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm almost, but I genuinely do. I feel that if we're on our game, we've gone like we're 10 games in now. We've won 8. We've lost 2. Yeah. We've had apart from Gloucester, we've had the biggest injury list of all the Premiership clubs, right? And despite all that, we've got an 8-2. After 10 games.
Well, I think someone put on Twitter, I think it was Marcus Watts said, when you look at the Prem, not anybody in their wildest dreams after that first half of Leicester, first game of the season, would have said we'd be sitting third
no way.
in the Prem and looking good and everybody back. Yeah. I think the only caveat, and there'll be people out there listening saying this, it's the squad depth. It's like to go the distance, to go all the way, you've got to have, everybody has got to be. You can't just rely on a great 15 and even a pretty good 23. So people are gonna have to play out their skins. When you look at what Bath have got.
I'm going to give you a second caveat to that. A lot of our rivals are going to have a lot of players playing in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
We won't.
No.
No.
Well, that's
And-
what Chris said on the
Yeah,
audio.
Yeah.
It's a massive advantage.
And so, I mean, that going into the business end of the season is going to be huge for us.
But I guess another caveat is game time during the next 6 weeks. So we're going to have Louis Free-Summit out, Genji,
That's it.
Jordan's he been picked for
Jordan.
Scotland?
Yeah. Tom Jordan's gone to Scotland. So
Well, that's
three.
right. 3. They're going to need some rest time. And I think you're right. We've got injuries coming back, haven't we? It was great
Dunny.
to see Dunny.
Dunny was fit for selection.
Gab Zibatoy got
Actually, on that note,
7
Gab
minutes.
Zivatoy, he comes back. Can you imagine his wildest dreams when Pat says, he's looking at the diary saying, actually, target Chiefs to come on. Just come on.
I know.
Did he think that his one job was to catch he had to catch that restart and then basically had to resource about 20 rucks for us to see the game out? And I actually thought to Gab's fair play to him because
It was good, wasn't
It
it?
wasn't
He's
what he,
like-
I'm not sure that was
know,
quite
I
what he
know.
was
I wasn't
hoping
brought
for.
in for this, Gaffer.
I mean, fair play, because it was weird. I was watching it back on TMT today, and almost the clock froze.
Oh, they mucked it up.
Yeah.
didn't
They mucked it
Yeah,
up.
but it didn't freeze in the ground, so we knew we still had a minute or two to go
it
because
was odd.
the clock in the ground was right, but the clock on the
You're right.
TNT.
So the game management, we knew we had to run the clock down.
I was still
And
worried.
on the TV, I was really worried. I obviously knew the result, and I couldn't believe how well the boys did in those greasy conditions to play that last minute.
They secured the restart. It was
did.
Gabs that secured it, I think, and then we just kept the ball for 60 seconds, and that's a lot. As we
That
know,
is a lot
That's a long
for
time.
most teams, isn't it?
And,
Like,
actually, you say on when we were there live, it was in because all they needed was a penalty. And kicked to the corner or whatever. So anyway,
How often does that happen where Slady just
Yeah.
steps up?
yeah.
Last couple of seconds.
I mean,
boom.
just go for. I mean, we mentioned any other players. I mean, Fitz.
Genji was brilliant.
Genji was brilliant. He's marauding best. Fitzy, Pedro.
Bats
But
played
it's
another
hard to
80
really.
minutes,
I think it's
you know.
unfair actually to everybody to pick
anyone
out
out.
individuals.
Yeah, I
think
because
so.
It was such a
Great.
team
I mean,
performance.
Liverpool put in a shift 56 minutes. That's great. Coming
First,
back for your first game back.
I mean,
injury, really.
he's been at Coombe Dingle coaching the students, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He's probably been out down,
I mean,
out clubbing.
I know
in the week with
Halliwell
all
came
the-
on for 1 minute, but Ganges away for 6 weeks. We've got some Prem Cup matches.
Yeah,
He needs a bit of
and
game
that's-
time, so that's good for him. Good,
Yeah.
Okay. Just before we finish, we always like to get a bit of interaction with the listeners and the fans and whatnot. And we've had a few, obviously, games like that. We do get a bit of feedback. I'm going to quickly whip through a couple of things to say. First thing I should say, actually, I forgot to tell you boys, I got a WhatsApp from a friend of the pod, Ryan Keishall, who had forwarded the picture of them doing the Blackbird. And his comment was, Moroni has got a better six-pack than Max Laheath, which is something I hadn't noticed. Now, when we were speculating on how can Moroni do this at the age of 34, well, clearly there's your answer. He's not human, is he?
No.
He's Iron Man.
Well,
He
if
looks
he's
a bit-
got a bigger six-pack than Max,
Backs.
then he's
so. I mean,
he's a Terminator.
I mean, that is incredible. I mean, Moroni's right. He went a long distance yesterday. Well, did he go full distance? Yeah, he must have done.
He went 80 minutes.
He went 80
He did.
minutes.
He did.
This is a guy.
This is the chap who was literally puffing the first game.
Yeah, the
we
first
saw
game
him.
when we saw him at Gloucester, he said, I won't say the word.
First game, he looked like Gaston Cortez.
Yeah, he did.
And then now he looks like Superman.
Yeah, so that was quite funny. So cheers for that, for pointing that out, Ryan. Because I mean, I like the way that you're obviously analysing the naked torsos of our team. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
for the good of the fans. We
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Many women will.
A couple of comments on Twitter. Big fan, John Wood.
Johnny Wood.
Johnny Wood, big fan
Friend
of the pod. He gave us a little acrostic.
Oh,
he
it's-
went for it.
Hey, is
Uh,
that,
you
is
ready
that
for
Johnny
it?
Wood's first acrostic?
I think he might have done one before. Wait, here we go. You boys see if you can get
Let's
it.
go for it.
Guts spilt on a sandy park. Well, I'd say a muddy park. Anyway, start again. Guts spilt on a sandy park.
Yeah.
Revovo immense. Intense defence. Tenacity throughout. Tough as ya like.
Got it.
Yes! Up the Bears!
Gritty.
Pretty.
Gritty.
We're giving that
I got,
yes
I
at the
got
end.
lost in the middle, but yeah. Well done, Johnny Wood.
Brizzle Nick, big friend of the pod. His comment was 8 wins from the last 9 games, says it all. Perfectly placed, and everyone must be salivating. Oh, you are, Miles. I can see you're salivating on what we can do in the run-in. I don't even think we're playing at our best. Injuries, etc. Exciting times.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely good. He quote tweeted Pat saying, the beauty of the weather is that it was black and white and we had to roll our sleeves up and commit to everything. The physicality, the getting up off the ground, making another tackle, the defensive sets we were brilliant, not just to defend but not to give away penalties. The discipline, actually, that's what we should have said.
Actually, it
as
was,
well.
wasn't it?
We're really showing that we
Excellent.
can win in lots of ways. There is more to the team than just throwing the ball around. To win 8 games out the last 9 is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Well, we could
Pat.
have just read that out.
We should have read that in
podcast.
pod, yeah.
Absolutely.
Nick
Totally
Spragg
agree.
said Genge has that belligerence of a don't dare and try and sub me off at the moment. Hopefully that carries through to Six Nations. Bristol defensive sets were so disciplined yesterday, something we've struggled with over the years. Fair point.
agreed.
Jason Bees musingly said it was genius for us to play with the tide after winning the toss.
Love it.
Got the tides right.
Brilliant.
Richard Spurlock, he said special mentions for Calla, whose fielding the high kicks were excellent and a big part of our defence. Yeah, well done. And then Nick Spragg also sort of more generally said, based on this, he said, I still don't particularly get the mainstream's aversion to us. Is it because of our championship yo-yo years? Is it because they think we used to flash a bit of cash? Is it because we're expansive? Arguably, lots of other teams have been doing the same recently, and we don't get treated the same. And that's maybe a discussion point for another pod about how we've actually contributed to the Premier League. We brought in marquee players like Rivovo and like Randranger and Pietau. You know, that was the whole point of marquee. It's for the whole league. And you know, we play great rugby. We get people to watch Premiership rugby at our stadium, and there is that. I feel I'd say aversion's quite tough. But I do feel there's a slight. We aren't the fancy. We're not the elite of the Prem. Like Harlequins get so much coverage
Yeah, but it's
all the
aversion to
time.
having such a big fan base.
Yeah, it's almost like Bristol's a bit like it's a big city. You know, it's like they're just not sure about us. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing I am pleased about though is that we don't get that kind of flash in the cash nonsense.
Not anymore.
aimed at
No,
us anymore.
that's gone.
Yeah.
Now
That's past now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bristol Bears. Oh no, that was just them putting. We need to talk about Fitzharding. By the way,
I
should say Bristol Bears put this out. We need to talk about Fitzharding. By the way, I think we've been talking about the boy for a long time, boys. Come on, get with the programme. What are you going to say?
Can I
Nick?
just say David Mooney
Yeah.
at Gobby Chef? It was a great watch. Sometimes a game like that with a howling wind outside and a decent glass or two, so I'm guessing he's watched it at home like myself, are one of life's great pleasures. I just thought there was a real beauty in
That is
those
lovely.
words.
Talking about a beauty in simplicity, Hammy Hambley. Obviously, we know he loves an
Legend.
acrostic, but he's done a very short, sharp one. He said, well, it wasn't the Bears' way, but that's what makes it even better, that victory. And his one was, you ready, boys?
Yeah.
Win on the road against Southwest rival. Extraordinary pass from Lewis Rees-Zammit. Third in the league into the Six Nations break.
Yeah.
Wet.
Wet. And then finally, a couple of mentions on the email. We had Spencer Mizzen, Professor of History. He's a professor of applied.
Face of a gangster.
He's a professor of applied history in association to rugby union, and he said, "I've got to say, just got back from the soggy sandy park. Shame we didn't bump into her. Actually,
Yeah,
Mark.
absolutely. Didn't know.
Savouring the Bristol's dogged victory. Got to say, this is the first time I've gone to watch a game of rugby and ended up watching water polo. As a lover of history, I was going to compare our backs to the wall second half performance to the Alamo, but actually I think it was more similar to Trafalgar or the Armada, with a bit of extra water thrown in. But he did say, in all seriousness though, if you were going to design conditions unsuited to the best Bristol way, this would be it, which makes our victory all the more impressive. What a way to roll in. And a big shout to Rubio and Batley. And then I replied, said, yeah, proper grit under immense climatological and physical pressure. Great bants. And then he said, actually, having thought about it, they say that, but now I can't find his answer. That's annoying. Oh, no, here we go. I'll do it. I emailed him again. He said, Exeter didn't need a trebuchet to breach our defence. They needed a dreadnought.
Oh,
And they didn't have it, though, did they?
No,
They didn't have it. It ran aground.
Yeah.
It was ran aground. Slady was at the helm of it, and it ran aground.
Yeah.
And then finally, we also had JP Holden, who is making a massive play for
He's
Poet
kind of coming
Laureate.
up to tears. isn't
Well,
he?
I'm assuming it's a he, but it could be a she. We don't know. It's like a person of mystery.
Yeah.
Like Dead Boys. Fancy a sonnet? Ooh. I think now's the time to dream. Now, actually, you know what? I can't read this all out because it's
so long.
So I'm gonna
What can you
put this up because we haven't got time. But what I'm going to do, Lee, is I'm going to put this on. I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm going to put it on our socials.
Oh, I mean, that's
attributed
It's class. No, it is class, but I think people need time to digest
Yes,
it. I don't feel I've got.
Yeah, to appreciate
I
its
don't feel I've got the
fullness.
skills to read it out. And then finally, Rachel Pierce, who me and Lee. We should also mention we went to the sort of little drink on Friday to commemorate Arthur Cleaver celebration of his life at the sports bar, and it was great, really nice turnout, and we saw Andrew and everything like that. But we saw Rachel there, and she's come back and it was amazing testament to him. But she's come back. I like what Rachel does. She gives us the answer before I have to read it out because she doesn't trust you boys to get it. So I'm going to do the same to save time. So the acrostic is utter filth. Just a bit, and it goes like this. So now you're all thinking, how's she done this then? So here we go. Under an angry sky, take two in the rain, try just one, scored by Noah Heward. Even the Chiefs couldn't cope this week. Ravovo, Rubiol and Rees-Zammit give it their all. Fortunately, we managed to dig deeper. In a barely seeable game, Luatua back in the mix. The man of the moment, Fitzharding, hands together for an utterly filthy win.
That's better.
Enjoy your pod, she says.
better.
Well, we have enjoyed. Enjoy reading that sort of stuff.
Rachel's made more of an effort than last.
Brilliant. And but she's an honest student, isn't she?
I maybe next season though. I think acrostics need to. This is the season of acrostics.
Yeah.
Maybe
Absolutely.
next season we need to mix it up a little.
I know we have to think about that. We've got a long Six Nations break, which takes us nicely on, boys, to what does the future hold in the near future hold. I mean, the problem we got now, as we've always had, is that we don't have Premiership games until March the 22nd. Tigers away, and then obviously the week after that is the big day out in Cardiff. So we have got some Prem Cup games, no doubt about it. Next weekend there's a Prem Cup game. I think it's Sunday against Gloucester, and then we've got one against Sale. We've got one against Bath. We've also got one. So I think there's a few more, and they're quite important. The academy boys, and we were quite impressed with some of the academy boys before Christmas. Mm-hmm. And I think, your mate Victor Worsnip, I noticed got called up for the England under-20s.
Indeed, he did. Yeah.
And we saw some, and actually it's a good time for a bit of a scouting trip. Thomas Gwilliam, we were very impressed with, and some of these boys, you never know, they might be needed in the running. I mean, Jimmy Halliwell's pretty much now in the mix as one of our 23. So these boys, I think it's a big few weeks for some of the younger lads to really, and I think I haven't really looked at it, but I think we still might have a chance of getting through to the knockouts. I know. And obviously the likes of Dunny and Gabsy Batoya is probably going to need a bit more of a run out as well. And Dunny's come back he's going to need a bit of run. So there could be a few big names that will be running out in this game. So there's a lot to do. But I suppose the only other thing we could talk about briefly is the Six Nations squad announcements. We said earlier that we're probably only losing 3 internationals, Lewis Rees-Zammit, Tom Jordan and Genji. But Lee, forgetting about whether we want Bristol players to go to England because we're worried about them getting injured, but thinking about it, what was your thoughts on the squad announcement from Borthwick? Should there have been some more Bristol players in that wider squad?
Well, my heart says no.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But let's just forget that out of your head.
But I mean, how we cannot be looking at, I don't know. I guess like with Fitz, there's a lot of positions for there's a lot of competition, but the one that really stands out for me is Ogre, because I really feel Ogre is the best hooker in the Premiership this season, and how he's not. For me, not playing, but not being even selected or looked at in the squad is absolute nonsense for me.
It's an absolute tragedy. I mean, you're right. How are we not talking about Gabe? Well, we are.
I like the way that Miles thinks that someone not getting picked for England is a tragedy.
Well,
You are very good,
There we
Miles.
are. I mean, you're right. We know he's playing out of his skin week after week. I mean, he's got some of the best line-out stats. Well, I think he has. It's undeniable,
he
isn't
has.
it? The best line-out stats in this season in the league. It's just criminal that we are, choosing players over him who are marginal.
Theo Dan.
Theo.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not slating Theo.
We're not slating him.
He's not as good.
No, he's not as good,
he's
and he's
the
not
third
playing
choice
week.
hooker.
He's third choice playing week in, week
And
out.
even Jamie George, he's like, I mean, I know,
He's
I really
he's
like
got-
Jamie George,
he's
but he's
to retire.
35 years
so
old.
why do we do? Is he really that much better than every other hooker to have him?
no.
I think
Jamie George can only be in that squad for the experience. Just like
That's
from-
it.
I mean, I'll tell you what, you say that Gabriel Ogie might think it's a tragedy, but he might be listening to this saying, Miles, mate, I've just
I
got
need a rest.
Pat's given me 2 weeks off in Dubai. It's like, I don't want it. It's not a tragedy to me, mate. I know exactly what you
I'm
mean.
pretty sure he'd rather be in that England.
Of course he would. And you know what? He will be. So if he carries on, I don't think he can be ignored. If he keeps this sort of level of consistency going, he will get there in the end. And I mean, the only other one that I was wondering about was I was actually worrying about Joe Batley as well. I was just thinking that they picked that guy from Gloucester, Arthur Clarke, who I know nothing about. He's a young bloke. Like what? He was injured for the Autumn International. I'm not sure. I don't know. I've never heard his name.
Yeah,
but what is he going to add to the squad that even if Bats doesn't get picked for the 23, having someone like Bats in that camp with his experience just seems weird. Like what? And also Fitz, like the Fitz thing. I know it's easy, and there are so many back rowers, but he gets made captain of England A.
Yeah.
He's had 100+ caps for Bristol, and he was made a captain. That's got to elevate him a little bit above. Now, I saw Greg Fisselow after the game yesterday, and he's a lovely guy. And I had a quick chat, and I congratulated him on his selection because he deserves it. But I also said, I bet, it's from our point of view, Fitz must have been pushing you hard. And he was like, mate, 100%. Fitz is brilliant. He almost looked a little bit embarrassed that he got it in front because I don't know. I don't really, and it's almost like they haven't ignored Fitz because they've given him the.
Yeah,
and I know Borthwick has an
almost
overview. He has an overview of it. So you almost think like, wouldn't you not, just as a person, you clearly recognise this guy as a leader. Why not have him in even if he's not going to get picked, have him in there? But I mean, the question is, who would he go for? I don't know. But that it's very hard, and it's and I listened to Steve Borthwick on Rugby Union Weekly, and it is difficult. He said basically, the reasons why I don't put some in is because they're all good. There are so many good players, and we just have to make a call.
One thing I feel we should address is a lot of people say that it's because the way the Bears play. I don't think it's that.
It's so difficult to prove that. Isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
I mean, the argument is, for those that don't know, the narrative is that. Well, also the narrative is that Borthwick and Pat fell out over a FOA game, and that probably there was a lot of bad blood. You could tell. I mean, Steve Borthwick was furious. Don't lie, Pat. Don't lie. And I don't know. You see, part of me thinks Borthwick is a man of kind of detail. He's an objective thinker, because therefore I don't think he would let that get in the way of his analysis. But then part of me thinks it just is a bit weird that he doesn't.
Don't forget Borthwick was at Bristol as well. So maybe that fallout, because he wasn't there for long.
No.
Maybe.
Well, he dumped Bristol, didn't he, for Eddie Jones?
Yeah, so maybe there was something
Japan
already going on.
So I mean, it's hard to. You'll never prove it. I mean, it's a nice theory, isn't it? It's a theory that has got circumstantial evidence.
I mean, it's annoying from us, from my point of view as Bristol fans and England rugby fans, because we want England to do really well.
Yeah,
but we kind of I'm not a big fan of Borthwick. I don't like the guy. I'll be honest. I think and I just think I want England to be successful, but in order for that to happen, he will be successful, and it kind of, you know what I mean? It just
I mean, I actually hope England do well. I just think we've got to get over. I think there has been signs of real development with England, and I think this is a big chance. I genuinely think we could
Legends.
win the Six Nations.
Yeah,
we
I
could
do,
win
I
every
do,
game.
I
We
do.
could.
This
I think
is the year.
Yeah.
Grand Slam is a potential, but it does depend a little bit on selection and
course.
combinations and and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing would be certain: Owen Farrell's not going to be playing 12, is he?
No.
So
No,
that's a
certainly
bit of a
not.
development.
And, is there Elliot Daly playing?
Well, Elliot Daly's in the squad.
Yeah, but is he? Do you reckon he'll be in?
Who knows? We'll find out.
Fair
Anyway,
play.
we're going a little bit off topic because we're not a general rugby pod. But one thing we'll be sure is that if it keeps Genji purring at that high level, then let's hope that he has a good one. We enjoy watching Genji.
We do. We love
and
it.
actually,
We
Bristol
love
will get a lot of kudos just for the basis of Genji playing for England,
Yeah,
because
of
it will
course.
be mentioned left, right, and centre that he plays for Bristol Bears.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of one-man marketing campaign for us. So on that note, boys, I don't know if there's anything else you want to discuss.
We haven't discussed the fact that Joe Owen
Oh yes,
signed a new contract.
Oh, yes.
Brilliant.
Yes, well
I
remembered.
think we all agreed he is the future
Brilliant
of Bristol
news.
Bears.
Absolutely.
He's a brilliant player, and
Look forward to great
fantastic
things.
addition.
Yeah,
And he's held Bears Beyond the Gate flag.
he has.
So there
He's
we
held
are.
the flag, and I should say Fitzy came over and held the flag yesterday for
He
us, which is we always appreciate
For
that
the second time.
for the second time.
I think he fancied wrapping it around him. He looked.
I kind of
he looked
saw it.
quite
They were all,
wet
I saw it.
and cold.
I held it up, and he came straight over because I think his parents had told him that he had to. Because it was, and so I do appreciate. I mean, what a great guy!
Yeah.
What a
He's
great guy!
We love him, don't we?
Well, I just say, I'm not.
But we love Dunny as well.
We love
remember?
Dunny.
Yeah, we love Dunny as well.
It was-
Dunny, don't get jealous.
Dunny,
Not
don't,
really.
because we
Pete
miss
and I,
him.
we had a great day yesterday. Can I just say how well Exeter Chiefs Rugby Club do rugby
let's
and
mention
fans and treating fans and lack of beer queues, 2-pint cups
Two-pinters with handles.
Yeah.
And I think that's a proper rugby club, and a big pat on the back for Chiefs and,
it was.
the away day
And the
experience.
kind of-
I
and
would
that-
recommend going there.
That bar with the band, but it wasn't just a single person; it was a proper band. So it got everyone singing. It was brilliant. They are brilliant. It's a great
I mean, it
setup
is
there.
one of the best away days for us, isn't it?
No, I think so. So yeah, fair play to them, but unlucky boys.
Yeah.
Didn't win.
Tough shit.
I know. Actually, we had some good bands, didn't we, with the terrace?
They're good quality, the Chiefs fans, and it's all there, drumming.
There was a couple of young girls in front of us, and this girl, we were bantering like generally, and she was like, "You haven't put the mute button on all game." I was like, "Well, what do you expect? I'm an away
This is
fan."
a away fan. This is what we
I think
do.
it was the one where I was telling her that when Slady was like lining up that kick that he missed, he had like an earpiece into the Met Office, and they're like trying to tell him when the wind was just about to change direction, when he should actually kick the ball. And then he was looking at it, and then he missed it. It was like, no. And then like I said, as he's running up to go, there's someone in his ear going, no, stop. There's gust coming in from the southwest. She liked that one, actually. She laughed at that.
did.
Anyway,
Well
on
done,
that
fellas.
note, let's call it a day. So everyone, stay safe. Keep an eye on the socials for the next time we put a pod out. We've got a few plans up our sleeve, so there'll be something coming out at some point. And stay safe. Have a good week. And 1, 2, 3.
Up the Bears.